Thank you so much, John. And to bring on our first guest, I'm going to let Aaron Brinker do the honors. Aaron, the honor is all yours.
Well, we're sitting here today with a close friend of the station, Kim Carter, who is the Executive Director for Time for Change Foundation, but she is here in her capacity as an expert in criminal justice issues. And as everybody knows, with all the prison reform and realignment that's going on, and this is something that affects each and every one of us. So we brought Kim on today to talk about a California Assembly Bill 1266, or was it Senate Bill 1266? Senate Bill. So, Kim, how are you doing today?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me today.
So, tell me, what is SB's 1266?
Before I do, I want to say happy holidays to the station and to all your listeners. And SB 1266 is a bill that was authored by Senator Carol Liu. And basically what it is an alternative to custody for female women who have been offenders of certain crimes. Those crimes have to be nonviolent, non-serious, and non-sexual in nature.
Why is it only females?
Well, because the main objective of the bill is to keep families whole, and statistics have shown that prior to incarceration, that women were the primary caregiver of their children. So in an effort to stem the tide of children going into the child welfare system, already overburdened a heavy tax system where there's entitlement programs, that it would be best cost-effective to keep the family together and to take that mom and sentence her to home confinement and to really strict classes and a program regimen that would allow her to pay her consequences and also keep the child intact with his family member, with his mom, most importantly.
So home confinement meaning she's got an ankle bracelet and she's at her house.
Exactly, or she could be designated to go to a traditional care facility or to a drug and alcohol rehab program, but it would be where she can stay in contact with her child, as opposed to what's happening now where families are torn apart and basically children are paying the price for their parents' crime.
Now, is that more or less expensive than traditional incarceration?
Well, incarceration is $52,000 a year. It would cost less than $1,800 to have somebody on home confinement and have them reporting and meeting certain requirements.
So $1,800 to the Department of
Corrections. Rehabilitation. And as you know, right now in California State, our budget is out of whack. We're basically broken. We cannot afford to keep paying these high costs to incarcerate these nonviolent women into a structure that does little to rehabilitate them and is basically robbing the general fund from funds that could be used for, higher education and health care services and other things that our state actually needs. So, we're looking at a really conservative approach, but it's time that, the California got its stuff together and quit spending money we frankly don't have.
Yeah, ain't that the truth.
You know what, guys? I would like to throw my hat in the ring as being the home confinement overseer. I would volunteer to do that. If it was to save California money, I would go by and make sure that they're complying, that they're living up to the standards as set by the state of California. Now, is that something, Kim, that they're looking into, to have someone oversee that?
Oh, it definitely is, but it's electronic. So just like your computer, your GPS monitoring can tell what the movement is. You will be allowed to go to certain classes and go to the school, but you would have to be home at a certain hour, and you will be monitored electronically. So whenever something was to register, like if the bell would go off, then you will be held accountable if they find out that you actually did leave your home in an unauthorized time period.
Okay, so for our listeners, so if the person leaves the premises where that person is supposed to be, a bell would go off, you said. Would it make a noise like or
it will be a detector to the probation department or police department or the parole department who's monitoring that individual, and they would know that person right now is now out of compliance.
And they would be able to track down the whereabouts of where the person is.
Exactly. It's definitely a tracking tool, 100% effective because it is GPS and it's monitored through a satellite. Same way we do with our Garmin GPS system for our cars. It gets you to the exact location.
Wow.
So and you can't just take that thing off neither, because when you start tampering with it, again, a bell goes off and then they...
Yeah, exactly. Now, let me ask you this, because, if presumably, I'm guessing that most of the women who find themselves in this predicament confinement are on drugs, and that's the issue, the reason why they found themselves to be arrested, are being arrested. So how do we know that, as a taxpayer, how do we know we're not just, the drug dealers could just come to them? How do we know that's not happening?
Well, one of the things is that part of the condition of your parole is that you're drug and alcohol free. So there's a testing requirement that goes with that as well. The second part of it is that, your child is now being monitored as well to ensure that they're able to go to school on a regular basis and that you're able to be there as that parent. What we know right now is that studies show us that when a mother is involved with her child, she's least likely to reoffend and recommit. And so what this bill has done is taken all the best evidence practices throughout the state of California and across the nation and combined it, and this bill has actually implemented some things that have been proven to work over a period of time. And this is why it's so crucial now that California starts using some of these proven evidence-based practices in order to not only reduce recidivism, but, encourage community and family involvement to decrease the amount of children that's involved with the child welfare system and, reduce recidivism at the same time while saving taxpayers money.
Saving big taxpayer money, because if a child's not in foster care, then you don't have to pay that foster parent. And if a mother is home in her house, then obviously you said $1,800 versus $55,000.
And the other part of that is that why should we allow the child who, through no fault of his own, has this mom who may have committed a minor crime, but now this child has to go through a traumatic experience where he's displaced from the home, when that child is put into another type of foster system, and that child becomes affected, and the Children's Defense Fund has a cradle to prison pipeline, and it shows that once this child has been affected by a parent who's been incarcerated, he becomes 7 out of 10 likely to be incarcerated. And this is a child who may be 3 or 4 years old, and they're already on this trajectory to go into prison, when we know now Senate Bill 1266 and others like it can serve as an intervention mechanism to get that child on the right track, keep him with his mom, and keep his mom accountable to being law-abiding citizen and also paying her debt to society. And that's one of the things we want to make sure people understand. This is not saying you can go out and commit a crime and we're going to keep you home with your kids and you don't have no consequences. You have consequences and you're going to pay those consequences out. But how can we do that in the most cost-effective manner without it costing the taxpayers $52,000 a year to house you in a prison that we know is not rehabilitating you, and we can go ahead and put you into some other type of programming where we're going to see a light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to see a trajectory where the mother's improved, the child's improved, and now we're starting to get this community back into a healthy status.
Yeah, so helping to keep that child on the right track. This is an investment for the future.
Exactly, and we have a lot of support. We have Chief Probation Officer supporting this bill, the Little Hoover Commission, Fathers and Families Commission, Commissioner of Staffs of Women, Catholic Charities Incorporated, public defenders, Friends Outside. There's a former warden from CIW, Don Davidson, bless her heart, supports this bill, and a lot of politicians across both aisles support this bill because it not only makes sense, but it saves dollars.
Wow, it sure does, Kim. And Kim, we have some of our listeners who are tuning in all over the United States today who may not understand what Time for Change does for the community here. Do you mind giving us a brief overview of the organization that you represent?
Sure. Time for Change Foundation, we house homeless women and children. Some have been incarcerated, some have not. And what we do is we provide a program to help women and children become self-sufficient. So the whole goal of Time for Change is to take a woman and her child, out of that abandoned vehicle or up under that bridge and get them into a case management home-style setting in a very nice neighborhood to establish a footing where they're able to stand on their own 2 feet. It's not a handout, it's a hand up. And one of the things that we pride ourselves in is that our children are a priority, and we make sure we have that maternal-child bonding and that the children are taken care of and able to thrive and become healthy. Because we realize that the next generation of leaders in this community is going to be our children. We need to prepare these children for the future, and the best way to do that is to get them into an environment conducive to healthy living.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I have been to these Time for Change shelters, and they model the family. So people who may or may not have ever seen a healthy family dynamic or had healthy interpersonal relationships learn how to connect with one another, how to resolve conflict, how to live in a family environment. It's really a positive way to live.
Exactly.
So how do people get involved with Senate Bill 1266? What do they do?
Well, right now what you can do is you can go on this website called takeactionca.org, and you can let your voice be heard that, yes, you support a conservative approach to incarceration, and you support mechanisms to not only hold people accountable, but to reduce the cost of taxpayers so we can start using our few resources that we have in this state much more widely. And that website is TakeAction, TakeActionCA.org. If you can't remember TakeActionCalifornia.org, go ahead to my website, TimeForChangeFoundation.org, and you'll see a link at the bottom of that. I'd like to also add that, because this was a bipartisan approach to this bill, we have a lot of support on both sides of the aisle, that there were some other authors involved. Senator Gordon McLeod from this area was also involved. Bill, Saldana, Evans, Skinner, and Yamar, just to show you that this was a cross-aisle approach to something that's very cost-effective.
Seems to make a lot of sense. Keeps families together, and it costs a whole lot less.
Exactly. And today, with our economy the way that it is, with people not having enough employment, the last thing we need to do is just take money and waste it to some high-priced babysitters so we can get something that's really going to be cost-effective.
That is so true, Kim. You hit it right on the head. Right on the head.
I'd like to also add to your listeners that I am the author of Invisible Bars, Barriers to Women's Health and Well-Being During and After Incarceration, and that report can be found on our website, thetimeforchangefoundation.org. And next month we're going to be doing a symposium at the UCLA Law School, and that information is available on the website as well. So please look us up. My name is Kim Carter from San Bernardino, California. Time for Change Foundation is an agency. Google me. Please follow me. Like me on Facebook. Hit me up on Twitter. I really would appreciate it.
Well, Kim, you got to accept my friend request. I sent you a friend request, and you keep denying it. What's up with that?
You look like a stalker.
Yes, I do. My past has caught up with me, Kim. I'm going to go revisit that.